friends, it's Miss Dom, and today I want to talk about something called cold porcelain. Now, porcelain is a type of clay that's very fine, that you can get really fine detail. A lot of sculptures and statues are made out of porcelain, but this is not actual porcelain. Cold porcelain is a recipe. It's more like a dough, but it has a lot of the qualities of actual porcelain. So I'm going to show you a couple things that I made with it. This is a little flower, and so you can see it's small. You know, I could put it in my hair if I wanted to. No, it's not staying. It's a toothpick. All right, I'm not going to keep it in there. But if you had stuck it onto a barrette or a bobby pin or something, you know, you could actually wear it, unlike if it's on a toothpick. This is a little rose that I made, and then this one is on, I put a magnet on it so I could use it as a magnet. Here's another rose that I made, and I don't know if you can tell, it's got a little sparkle. Yeah, you can sort of see that little sparkling going on, and I just put some fine, grab it over here, some fine glitter into it. And then this is one, sort of a small relief sculpture. Again, these are small. I find this type of clay is best for, and I put a magnet on the back. I was going to do this actually with some of my in-person kids later on in the year, because regular clay, it's not really recommended. I know some teachers are using it, but this is, everybody can get their own little piece, and it doesn't need to be fired. So you can make this at home, and that's why I'm making this video, so if you want to make it at home. Now, the thing is, this is not something you want to do by yourself. You're going to have your parents help you to make the clay, and then you can have fun with the clay and make stuff with it. It's really hard. If I tap this, you know, it's not going to break. So these little roses look real delicate and sparkly, but again, they don't break easily. I mean, if I worked at it, I'm sure I could break it, but it's pretty strong stuff. So how do you make it? Well, you're going to need, and I'm going to put the recipe in the slide, you're going to need some vinegar, and I've looked up many different recipes for this, and so instead of vinegar, you can use lemon juice. You can, you know, it doesn't have to be apple cider vinegar. Basically, it is just adjusting the pH so that it doesn't get moldy. And some sort of baby oil or oil. So most recipes call for baby oil. I didn't have any, so this is just a body oil that I had. And then a lot of recipes call for something called Nivea or cold cream. I use this body butter just because I happen to have it. It's a nice, natural, heavy cream. I just wasn't crazy about the smell of it, so I hadn't been using it, so I just happened to have it in the house, and it worked perfectly. The other main ingredients you're going to need are cornstarch and Elmer's glue. Now, in some of the experiments that other people have done making this recipe, they used school glue. So Elmer's has this glue all. They also make a wood glue, and the wood glue works, and the glue all worked perfectly for me, but somebody tried it with what was called school glue, and they weren't happy with the results. So I would make sure it says glue all rather than school glue. They look pretty much identical, except one has the word school on it and one just says glue all. So you're going to need a cup of this and a cup of this. You're going to mix them in a bowl. I'm not going to have you watch me do it. If you want to watch somebody do it, you can look it up on YouTube. There's lots of people that have done it. And then a tablespoon each of these or so. Some people call for a little bit more. And again, you can experiment and adjust your recipe if you feel like you need to. And again, you don't necessarily have to use these particular brands. You just need to have an oil and then the lotion. And the lotion is mainly for your hands to smooth it out, and then a tablespoon of apple cider, because when you work this dough, it's very sticky and you have to knead it. And so the lotion will sort of keep it from sticking to you. Okay, so you don't have to use a particular kind of lotion, you just want a good thick lotion. Now, this is the dough that I made, and the first time I made it, just troubleshooting for you, it was super stretchy and really loose, and when I tried to work with it, it was too sticky. It started sticking to my hands, and I got really frustrated, and so I cooked it again. You can cook it on the stove top, or you can cook it with in the microwave, and I cooked mine in the microwave. And so this one turned out just right, this after letting it cool and then realizing it was too sticky and then cooking it again. So you want it to be, so like when you pull it, see how it makes a little teardrop shape? That's what it should do if you make it correctly. Now, the first time I made it, it stretched, but this teardrop went whoop, and then it drooped down. So if it doesn't stay in this teardrop shape and it starts oozing, you need to cook it a little bit more. But what I've seen some people do is when it's overcooked, it's really crumbly. So if yours is crumbly, you've cooked it too much. And I've seen people troubleshoot and add a little water to it and then knead it some more, and then it seemed to be working for them. But this, like I said, after cooking it again, it worked out. And so this is why you need to have your parents help you with this, because you need to gather all these supplies. I liked it because I had all those supplies. And so it really didn't cost me anything. I did go out and buy some extra cornstarch just so I didn't use up all my cornstarch. But cornstarch is cheap. It's like $1 for a container of it. So it's very inexpensive, and like I said, you don't have to fire it. So this is the clay, and I'm just going to very quickly show you how I made my little roses. And you don't have to make roses, you can make whatever you want, but again, it works best for small things. It dries really nicely and smoothly for smaller things, but if you do something big, it does shrink as it dries, so there could be some cracking. You may want to put it over something if you're trying to do something larger, but again, it does shrink some, so just keep that in mind. So for example, when I made this, you can see a little bit of the cardboard on the edges, and that's because of the shrinkage, but it really wasn't that bad. Now, before I start this, there's one other thing, a little trick that I discovered that I want to talk to you about. Adding color. Now, in a lot of the other videos that I watched, people used paint, like acrylic paint, but acrylic paint, it's going to get all over your hands when you're trying to mix it in, and then it's hard to wash off. What I did is I took chalk, colored chalk, like chalk pastel, or if you have sidewalk chalks, and if you just sort of scrape it into a dust and mix that dust in, you can get your color. And it will dry a little bit darker than the color it is as you're working. Like glue, it starts off white, but it dries clear. So if you want, like for example, when I did these clouds, I added a little white chalk to it in order for them to stay white. And so for this one, I just added the glitter, and that's why it's sort of pale, but it does have the sparkle. If I want it to be a sparkly red rose, I would want to add a little bit of red chalk dust and then also add the glitter. So to add whatever the inclusion is, I just used a pair of scissors and scraped the chalk, or in the case of the glitter, you can just pour it in there and make yourself a little, oops, got a little bit on my computer. Okay, I'll clean that up in just a few moments. So I just made it, and I just tucked it inside there, and now I'm just going to start mixing it up. Alright, so I got a little bit on my fingers. I'm trying not to spill any more on the computer, because computers don't like to have glitter on them, but you can see how it's starting to mix in. Okay, so move back from my computer, and you just mix until it's all mixed up in there. Okay, and then when it dries, it'll have that pink sparkly look of that rose that I just showed you. So to make my rose, you just want to sort of roll it up into a little ball, or roll it out into sort of a snake, and then take little balls and make a series of little balls that are about the same size. And you want to have quite a few. So you want to have about, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 little balls. I've got 6, 7, here's 8. And then some of the larger ones, I'm going to break those in half just so I have a couple more. It's better to have too many than too few. And the first one, I'm just going to flatten it out and then roll it up. And that's going to be the center of the rose. And then I'm just going to flatten each of these little balls. And this clay is really nice because it just flattens, absolutely lovely. And you're just going to wrap it around, okay? And you're just going to keep doing that. You're going to wrap it around and overlap a little bit where it wrapped around before. You can see how it's already starting to look like a rose. Okay, and like if you wanted to, you could do what I did with this little flower and put it on a toothpick or a bobby pin or a stick to give it a stem. But again, I'm just flattening each of these little balls of clay, flattening them out to make a petal shape. And then I'm going to take it and wrap it around, and then I can sort of bend it out a little bit, and you can see how this is starting to look like a rose. Okay, now I'm getting a little nervous because I'm seeing my clay sitting there because I took it out to show it to you, but I really need to wrap it up. So that's the other thing. Oops, that's bending the wrong way. So that's the other thing with this clay, is you do need to keep it wrapped up. So once you've cooked it, let me get back to talking about making it. So that's the rose. All right, you can see, and I could add a couple more petals, but you get the idea. All right, so once you've cooked it, you're going to cook it for 30 seconds, stir it, cook it again, stir it, and it'll start to get lumpy. And like I said, I stopped a little too soon the first time I made it. And because I was nervous, I didn't want to overcook it. But then I cooked it again, 30 seconds, stir it, 30 seconds, stir it. If you're starting to get nervous, if it's a little bit lumpy, but not real lumpy, maybe go down to 15 seconds between stirring. And I was using a cheap spatula. I actually broke my spatula because it will be really thick and gooey. And then you have to knead it. And that's where the thick lotion comes in. You need to lotion up your hands, lotion up your countertop, and knead it like you're making bread. And then it'll all come together, and eventually you'll have this nice dough. And what they recommend that you do is wrap it, sort of make it into a bit of a log like this. Maybe put a little bit more lotion on it. Mine's done, so I don't really need to put more lotion on it. Oh, now I've got, that's why I don't like glitter. The glitter's now on my clay. Oh well. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up, and just, you want to keep it from getting any air on it. So I'm going to use this saran wrap, and then I'm going to put it in a baggie, because as soon as the air hits it, it's air dry, it'll start to dry. So you want to protect the stuff you're not using, keep the air from getting to it so it doesn't dry out before you get to use it. So that is cold porcelain. And like I said, talk with your parents, see if they're willing to help you make some. Chances are you have the ingredients right at home. Have fun.